Why aren't there? Oh my goodness. Hello, Melamed community. I'm Dr. Norma Mobley along with Dr. Sharon Dixon, and we are going to see if we can't try to talk it out.
Yeah, we want to explore that question of why aren't there more Black women in medicine?
And women of color in general.
Absolutely.
I suppose, I encounter a lot of children being a pediatrician who start out saying, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor just like you. But then as they progress on, they shy away from pursuing that dream. And I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I think there are so many things that factor into that. It could be just biases altogether for people of color, especially women. We get the raw end of the deal on a lot of areas, but certainly in medicine, we're just not seeing the number of women we should.
I know when I was an undergrad, I had an advisor who actually told me that I would not be a good candidate for medical school, which made me start researching other professions in medicine, which allowed me to learn about being a physician assistant prior to attending medical school. But that's one thing that I encountered.
Well, I've heard that story so many times that, you should think about something else. So it goes back to what we were talking about, how important it is to have good mentors.
Right.
Good people in your life who can help to steer you.
And be encouraging and say, yes, you can do this.
Right.
Instead of discouraging them. And oftentimes, I'll just say from my own personal experience, I think about some of the individuals that used to tell me I want to be a doctor when I grow up. And now they're all grown up and they've gone into nursing, which is a phenomenal, rewarding, and well-needed profession.
Right.
But they're not going into medical school.
Right. Exactly. And we need them there.
Right.
We need so many women because why? We take care of the majority of our communities. And it's important that you have women in the field who understand all of these dynamics that come into play when you're providing care.
Part of it, I would say, is early on in education that a lot of young girls are not encouraged to pursue STEM type activities, extracurricular activities. That may be one thing. The other may be the commitment to medical school and training. They may feel like, well, I want to start a family, but as we've talked about before, you can have a family and have a career in medicine as a physician. It may also be the expense of pursuing that education.
Right. And STEM, is not as well represented here in the States as it is in other countries. It just doesn't have as much of a focus like in some Asian countries where they're really focused on, or even in African countries where they're focused on, we need folks to be in medicine. Now, they may even more traditionally focus in on African men as opposed to women still. So there are all these biases that feed into that, but more so when it comes to women. We're just not considered to be in the role model we see is the white male.
Right.
Mainly. So we have to change those images for young women and girls so that they see more of us. When you talk about going into the PA program, because you all remember that Norma and I were in the same physician assistant program, and I was one of the last, I think, to be admitted to this particular class of physician assistant students. But what was so encouraging to me was all of those Black women. Well, we had one Black man, I think.
Right.
And then I had never been in any kind of classroom setting with that many Black women.
Me either.
Before. Wow. It was, and so we need to make sure that girls are seeing that.
Right.
there are women who want to do what you want to do.
And they actually see it is an attainable goal.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it still was after becoming a physician assistant, because I kind of like, medicine, that may be too hard. It was other Black women in medicine while I was working in the emergency room who encouraged me there, like, you can do this.
Right.
So that encouragement, having someone in your corner who helps you to realize your potential, so important.
I hope the mindset amongst men in medicine has changed, but I will say back in the 80s, early 90s, you had many physicians who would downplay women going into medicine by making comments of, oh, they always want to have a family, and then you have to take extra call because they have to go out to have a baby. I'm like, what?
Yes. You would see that, and there were times when I think that was considered in terms of if they were going to hire you or not, because they weren't so sure how long you were going to stay in the field. Or that you would need this extra time out that the men didn't need.
And that may also have an impact on how we function as physicians ourselves, knowing that has been said, it's in the back of our minds, and so it may make us endure additional stressors.
Yes.
Because we don't want to be looked upon as like weak or we are shirking our duties, if you will, like somebody else has to make up for us not being there.
Absolutely. And women have done that traditionally anyway, kind of take on, well, I've got to be full throttle on this while I'm also trying to do this. And I'm glad that some things have changed to allow a better mix of what you can do. And we need to make sure that girls and women know that you can do it all.
And we've talked so many times before about how important it is to have sensitivity for other cultures, and not only sensitivity, but appreciation for those differences, how people may choose to dress, how they may do their hair and things of that nature. I can think back on a story that I heard once about a candidate, a African-American female candidate that was very dynamic on paper, also dynamic during her interview, well-spoken, had a lot of strengths. And then yet when she left the room, the conversation was focused on her hairstyle, which happened to be braids, and her nails. They did not once talk about how she answered questions.
Wow.
And there was only one person of color involved in that admissions activity, and that individual was not offered a residency spot.
Wow. So that brings us back to talking about who's in the room.
Exactly.
So even us, as we are talking here, Melamed, we need our physicians to get in the room, because if your opinion is not there to be shared, then those other thoughts of who we are as women will prevail, and sometimes will determine whether you're in or you're out.
Right.
We've got to be in the room to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's right.